Rob Hopkins is the founder of the transition movement, an idea that began in 2008 and since then has gone viral around the world. At the heart of the transition movement is the idea of a plan imagined, designed, and implemented by the community to move away from fossil fuels and into a rich, sociable, locally focused way of life. The transition movement has spread to more than 400 towns all over the globe.
Well, the transition town movement is a collection of ordinary people around the world motivated by climate change, by peak oil, by the economic crisis that we're facing, and arguing that what we need to do is to build community resilience, that the thing that will get us through this, or one of the things that will get us through that, is community resilience. And we need to see that as an enormous opportunity. So when people talk about climate change, there's so many things we need to do, and they often feel like something terrible, or we're moving away from where we want to be. In transition, we say there's an enormous opportunity here for an economic, a cultural, and a social renaissance in the places that we live. So transition is really about ordinary people being fantastic, I think, in extraordinary times, about unleashing the collective genius of a place to respond to these times. I think it's the great untapped resource in the war against climate change, really, you know, because so many of the solutions require massive infrastructural change, or, like you say, just changing our light bulbs. But the potential of communities when they come together is extraordinary. You know, we see now, after 6 years of transition, we have communities that have created their own community energy companies funded by shares raised from local people. We have cities establishing their own local currencies with the support of the local council. We've got you know, incredible local food projects going on, incredible sort of inward investment initiatives. Communities really starting to be very strategic about how this whole thing works. And my experience of transition has been that there is a real serendipity to the process, that actually when you think, what we need now is somebody who can, oh hello, you know, actually the people tend to sort of come along. So here in Totnes, for example, there's about 40 projects that have been started since Transition Town Totnes started, and in many times actually the right people just come along at the right time with the expertise that's needed. Communities are incredibly resourceful things, and we have this idea, or we've been fed this idea, that if we want to make change happen, we have to wait for the coachload of experts to come in and get off with their clipboards and walk around and write us a plan and go away again. And transition is a real challenge to that. It says actually what we need is already here, and it's just a question of having a process that unlocks it and that engages people. It needs to be a process that doesn't feel that it belongs to the left, it doesn't need to belong that it belongs to the right, you know, it can encompass all kind of spectrums. It's about this place at this time in history and what's the most appropriate thing for us to do moving forward. And that's a process that needs all of us, and it needs to be done in such a way that it invites us to be innovative and to be brilliant and to work together.
Which raises the question of what's the community? How do you define the community?
Well, I think we always say that your neighbourhood is what you feel your neighbourhood is. You know, it could just be your street, it could just be your building, it could be your workplace. Usually it's an area that has a, you know, if someone says, where are you from? You know, that's usually well, I'm from Tooting, or I'm from Totnes, or, you know, generally people might say they're from London, but often they would say I'm from Camden, or, you know, from the particular part where they feel. Right. And usually those places have a culture and identity. So we really say it's up to people to establish what's the area over which they feel they can have an influence. If you take on too big an area, you're going to burn out very quickly.
When has something really rocked you back on your heels and made you say, wow, who imagined that was possible?
I think one of the great blessings about being at the centre of this transition thing is actually we have moments like that every week. Whether it's getting an email from somebody who wants to set up Transition Ulaanbaatar, or some people who are musing over creating Transition Tehran, or an email I had last week from an order of nuns in America who also have orders of nuns in Japan and Chile and places, asking for our permission to use their materials on their website because they wanted to encourage all of their nuns to become advocates for transition around the world. The thing that you really see with transition people, wherever it is in the world, they're in this for the long haul. People see this as being their life's work. This isn't something that they're going to pick up, do for 6 months and then move on to the next thing. People, they want to make this happen.
Rob Hopkins, founder and leader of the transition movement, which has inspired profound positive change in hundreds of communities all over the world. If you enjoyed this interview, you may want to look at our interview with the Honourable Jigme Thinley, Prime Minister of Bhutan, who is leading his nation into a future where the measurement of success will be gross national happiness as opposed to gross national product. For the Green Interview, I'm Silver Donald Cameron. See you next time.